So this is a 5-part series brought to us by good old Steve Wohlberg, the same person who had a campaign against Halloween, and the same person who thinks that there are dangers in Wicca, but he failed to produce any proof of these dangers.
Thank you for coming. Welcome here to part 1 of a 5-part series on witchcraft and the Bible. I know this is a rather spooky topic.
The only thing spooky is your inability to accept other religions that are different from your own.
The first program is called Witchcraft Goes Mainstream, and so to break the ice, I thought I would put a picture on the screen that should make you smile. This is a picture of my little boy. His name is Seth Michael Wohlberg. He was born about 6 months ago. He's the joy of our lives. My wife, Kristen, and me, we're just so happy that he's here in the world. Now, why do I begin this program with a picture of him? The reason is because right before Seth was born, my wife and I were sitting in the lobby of the medical center waiting to visit a woman that was monitoring the progress of her pregnancy, her OBGYN. And as we sat there in this office, a woman, a mysterious woman, walked in, sat right in front of me. She had long dark hair. She was dressed in black. She was probably in her mid-20s. And the fact that she was in black was a little bit unusual for a spring day in May. And
Why are you staring at this young lady?
She had a book in her hand with a full moon on the cover. She sat in front of us, and I looked at her, and I started thinking, is this a possibility that she's practicing witchcraft?
Now she has some psycho across from her who's staring at her, looking her up and down and assessing her, and she's probably trying to concentrate on this book and tune you out.
I didn't want to look too close. A few minutes later, the lady came to the door and called my wife's name, Kristen Wohlberg. We got up to leave the room, and I turned around and I looked closely.
Steve, please stop staring at her.
And I noticed that this woman had a star, a 5-pointed star around her neck, a necklace, which is called a pentacle or a pentagram. Now, whether she was a practicing witch or not, I can't say. But I can say that in case you haven't noticed, it is a fact.
Where is your evidence to support this fact?
That kids and teenagers and young adults all across the United States and around the world are getting more and more involved in what is now being called Wicca witchcraft. It's also called the old religion or the craft.
I don't know where he's getting this information or this so-called fact.
More and more kids are visiting popular witchcraft websites, and believe it or not, there is a ton of them out there. There's more than you want to know about. They are buying spell books either in bookstores or on the internet. They are mixing potions, joining covens, and practicing magic.
How are you coming up with this information? You're just creating this domino effect in your mind.
This was actually noticed, especially by the media, in the year 2004. A major article, or not an article, but this was a news story that was reported across the country from National Public Radio. I've got it right here, at least the clipping, and it was called Teens and Wicca, May 13, 2004. Right after that, another article came out in a publication called Religion Link. This was for reporters across the country, October 11, 2004, and this was called Wicca Moves into the Mainstream. And then another story came out on BeliefNet.com, which is a major website that deals with all kinds of current religious issues, and it was called The Witch Next Door, and it just talked about the popularity of Wicca witchcraft. Here is a book on the screen called Rocking the Goddess. The subtitle there is Campus Wicca for the Student Practitioner by Anthony Page. And it says there, and this is from the back cover, that Wicca witchcraft is the fastest, or could be the fastest growing religion in America, and it is thriving now on college campuses. I remember when I was in high school and when I was in college a number of years ago, I heard about a lot of different things. I mean, when I went to North Hollywood High School, and there was a lot of drugs on campus. We talked about gangs, but we never talked about witchcraft. Never did, but times have changed.
Yeah, Steve, times have changed because you started talking about college campuses and then you went to your high school. So nowadays, there's high school and then there's college.
And witchcraft is definitely a topic of discussion on college campuses across the country.
Witchcraft is definitely a topic of conversation on campuses?
Lots of people are getting into witchcraft these days. Doctors, lawyers, salespeople, mechanics, teachers, students, CEOs, secretaries, housewives, just about anybody.
Hold on a second. You're just rattling off a bunch of occupations here. Again, you do not have any factual information for this.
Anybody. I don't know if I ask you, how many of you have met people that are involved in Wicca? Let me see your hands. Any hands out there? Okay.
Steve, I don't see any hands. I don't even think you have an audience. If you do have an audience, they're very passive. I see one little head over here, but that's it.
Okay, I see a few. Whether you know that you've met someone practicing witchcraft or not, you probably have. You just don't know it.
Why is it so important to you? So you know which ones are the Christians that you can hang out with, and then others, and you can avoid them?
Witchcraft is strong right now in the military. There's an organization called the Pagan Military Network. It's strong in the United States government. Wicca witchcraft is recognized officially by the federal government as a legitimate religion.
It is not that the federal government one day suddenly recognized Wicca as a legitimate religion. It was ruled through the district courts and finally the federal appeals court to be a legitimate religion. It was challenged, and in the United States, the First Amendment gives its citizens the right of freedom to exercise religion, and the 14th Amendment gives right to equal protection under the law. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 states, "To be a bona fide religious belief entitled to protection under the First Amendment or Title VII, a belief must be sincerely held and within the believer's own scheme of things, religious." The District Court of Virginia declared in 1985, Dettmer versus Landon, that Wicca is clearly a religion for First Amendment purposes. Members of the church sincerely adhere to a fairly complex set of doctrines relating to the spiritual aspects of their lives, and in doing so, they have ultimate concerns, in much the same way as followers of more accepted religions. Their ceremonies and leadership structure, their rather elaborate set of articulated doctrine, their belief in the concept of another world, and their broad concern for improving the quality of life for others gives them at least some facial similarity to other widely recognized religions. In the Fourth Circuit Federal Appeals Court, so it was appealed and it went from the district court to the federal appeals court. The Dettmer versus Landon decision in 1986, the Honorable Judge Butzner said, "We agree with the district court that the doctrine taught by the Church of Wicca is a religion." And this happened in 1986. So it's not that Wicca was a recognized religion. It actually had to go to court, and now it is recognized as a legitimate religion.
And it's strong on high school and college campuses. As I mentioned, this book, Rocking the Goddess, talks about student associations, pagan student associations that are being formed all over the country. Times have certainly changed.
Yes, Steve, times have changed, and we are evolving to a much better and more inclusive society. And that is one of the reasons why I make videos like this whenever people like you present this kind of propaganda into the general public.
From when I was in high school, a number of people have told me they've recently seen license plates that one of them said 100% Wiccan, another one said the craft. I have a friend of mine that came out of Wicca witchcraft, and she gave me the phone number of a friend of hers that's still in it, so I could talk to her and learn more about it. Now, why are so many people these days getting into Wicca witchcraft? Why is this a rave among teenagers? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but I think one big reason is because of Hollywood. Hollywood in the last few years has put out a vast array of movies and TV shows that glamorize the topic of witchcraft and sorcery. One of the biggest ones here is Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She's a girl with supernatural powers who learns to use her witchcraft wisely. Another big one that's watched by kids, was watched across the country and around the world, is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy has a friend in the series, and her name was Willow, and Willow was nicknamed the Willow Witch because she's a student and she's a witch. She practices witchcraft. Another one is the Charmed series, and here you can see a picture on the screen of three sisters who use their powers as good witches to battle evil. Here's a recent issue of People magazine. There's Brad Pitt on the front, Jennifer Aniston, and there's a whole ad on the inside about the Charm series, these three ladies, and it says, "Your witch has been granted. Fall under their spell February 1 when the DVD finally comes out." Now, as you look at this picture of these three women, let me ask you, do they look like witches to you?
No, Steve, they don't look like witches because you've already described what a witch looks like.
Sat right in front of me. She had long dark hair. She was dressed in black. She was probably in her mid-20s. And the fact that she was... Most people, when they think of witches, they think of old ladies that have long noses and warts on their nose. They think of really scary, hags, something like that. But times have changed, and the witches of today are presented as being very beautiful, very sexy, and very, very powerful. Here's another movie that came out in 1996. It was The Rave Among Teenagers, and it was called The Craft, about a coven of witches still in high school. And then there's The Witches of Eastwick, about 3 women who practice witchcraft for entertainment. And then there's Practical Magic, 2 sisters who stay up late and who study spell books and practice magic, starring Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. These programs and these movies have been watched by kids and young adults and adults over and over and over and over again. And of course, then there's probably the biggest of them all, and that is Harry Potter.
Oh no, now he's going to bring Harry Potter into the mix. So first of all, I just want to explain the logical fallacy that he is making here between the success and popularity of these movies and his assumption that people are getting into Wicca and witchcraft. He has not presented any evidence for this correlation. He is just jumping to the conclusion that because A equals B, that A automatically equals C, and the truth of the matter is there's nothing really to support this information. There's nothing to support this at all.
The Harry Potter series is a phenomenal best-selling series of books. We're going to talk about that in a little while. And it's also a series of movies, 7 books and 7 movies. There's a picture on the screen of one of the DVDs, and there's a quote there from Time magazine, and it says that J.K. Rowling, the author of the series, has mesmerized an entire generation of kids. There is no series of books and no series of movies that have attracted the attention of kids more than the Harry Potter series. These books have broken all records. They've just gone to the top of the charts of the New York Times, of the Wall Street Journal, of the USA Today, bestseller lists. They've been translated in many, many languages. So far, there's 3 movies out. There's 4 more to come. The most recent book out is called Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which is just a huge blockbuster success. And the center of this whole Harry Potter series is a young wizard boy named Harry who develops supernatural powers, who goes to a school called Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and then he begins to battle the forces of evil, especially this super sinister wizard named Lord Voldemort.
What are you, crazy? You can't say his name.
Who killed his parents and who tried to kill him when he was a baby, but the curse of the evil wizard bounced back upon the evil wizard. It bounced off of Harry. It left a scar on his head.
I don't want to hear anything more. I haven't seen the movie yet. Please don't say anything more.
And then it bounced back on the evil wizard, and the wizard vanished into the night. And the whole Potter series is about this young boy named Harry who develops his magical witchcraft abilities.
Is he still talking?
To defend himself against this evil wizard who is rising back into power. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And so here you have all these Hollywood programs, movies, TV series, and kids are watching them, and they basically portray witchcraft and casting spells and mixing potions and things like this in a very, very positive, cool, and exciting light.
So I'm going to end the video at this point right here. Steve does go on for another 10 minutes. He talks about a lot of authors. He makes a lot of claims. He jumps to a lot of conclusions. I unfortunately don't want to turn this into a 30-minute video, so I'm just going to cut it off here. But there will be a link below to not only the NPR piece that he mentioned, the 2 articles that he referenced. There's also going to be a link to the federal appeals case, which made Wicca a recognized and legitimate religion in 1986, and also a link to Steve Wohlbergs' video if you would like to watch the rest of it. Look for the second part series, which is going to come out in probably about 1 week from today. So, this has been Loken. Again, thank you and blessed be.